So we're gonna let everybody kind of come in. We had a large group of you join us for RSVP today, so we're super excited. I think this is our biggest amount so far with our webinar. So I know that you guys are all passionate to learn more about native plants today. My name's Allison Storm. I'm the marketing manager here at Pride's Corner. I've been here for 20 years, and native plants are definitely a passion of mine. And I'm excited to be working with Stephanie. Stephanie's been here for 18 years. She's our sales rep, and I know she's one of the people I go to if I have questions about native plants. That being said, I know she doesn't know everything. So if there's a question that comes up that we can't find the answer for you today, we will get back to you and do some research and try to figure it out. The third panelist we have is off screen. Her name is Denise Russman. She's our buyer. She's been at Pride's for 22 and a half years. That was really important I say that today. And she's our woody buyer. She is a native plant enthusiast. She's out there hiking, finding plants in the wild, and it's really what makes her excited about native plants. So she's going to be manning the chat box. If you have questions throughout the presentation, she will be answering them for you as well as I will as well. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Stephanie. I'm the sales rep here for Eastern New York. I've been at Pride for 18 years, and thank you, Allison. I just want to say that when I have questions about native plants, Allison and Denise are both people that I would go to. So, got a lot of knowledge there if you guys have any questions during the presentation. Um, I would like to start by talking about what is a native plant in this context, because if you ask 100 people, you can get 100 different opinions on that. So I just wanted to lay that definition out first. So for Pride's Corner and our webinar today, and for American Beauty's native plants, we consider a native plant anything that is an open pollinated species or selections of native species only. We don't genetically alter plants. We don't intentionally create hybrids. Sometimes they're found naturally occurring, and we would put those into our program. Our name selections are native selections that are naturally occurring that were chosen for various traits like flower color or disease resistance, while remaining true to nature and beneficial to local ecosystems. So anyway, now that I've got that out of the way, let's get started. So the first plant on my list is the only vine that I chose, Aristolochia macrophylla, or Dutchman's pipe. And I really chose it because it's just got a super cool and unique flower. It's not a shape that's found often in nature. It has really big heart-shaped leaves. It is a host plant to the pipevine swallowtail butterfly, the only host plant. It grows best in some shade. One thing to mention about it, though, it is a very vigorous grower. So if someone had a large fence to cover in a shady area and they wanted to do it in a short amount of time, this would be a good choice for that. So in the past several years, Denise, our woody buyer, has started introducing more native rhododendron or azalea species into our lineup. And I didn't know a lot about the differences between them, honestly, until I started researching stuff for this webinar. So I figured that maybe other people would also have questions about what makes them different from each other. So I picked a few to kind of talk about briefly today. Let's start with the similarities between them. We're talking about all deciduous native azaleas. They all have great fall color. They all prefer acidic soil. They're generally more disease resistant than Asian azaleas, and they're all important nectar sources for hummingbirds, butterflies, and the azalea sphinx moths. The first one that I've got on the screen here is Azalea arborescens, also known as sweet deciduous azalea. It's one of the later blooming ones and one of the most fragrant. It's got like a really strong, nice vanilla scent. And it also has really showy red stamens that protrude pretty far outside of the white flowers. They give it kind of a nice, almost bicolor look. The next one is Azalea atlanticum, also known as coastal azalea. It's the smallest of the species that we grow, and true to its name, it does well in sandy soil. It does spread and form colonies. It's a great choice for naturalizing. Really an example of right plant, right place. It's great for coastal areas, pines barrens, restoration. Can be a garden performer as well. You just gotta watch out for it taking off. Next up, we have Azalea calendulaceum, also known as flame azalea. It's only hardy to zone 5, and it is probably the showiest of the native azaleas that we do. It's got these flowers that are red, orange, yellow, kind of true to its name, I guess. It's the most tolerant of sun out of any of these, and it probably is the one that likes the least wet, or one of the ones that likes the least wet. The most interesting fact I found out about this as I was researching this webinar was that it is pollinated almost exclusively by the wings of butterflies, not bees. Next up, we have Azalea paraclimanoides, or pinkster bloom azalea. This one is the most common native azalea in the Northeast, and it's really adaptable. It can handle wet to dry, sun to shade. If you're an outdoors person, it's the one that you're most likely to see if you're out in the woods. I usually see them kind of living on the edges of woods, or if I'm out kayaking, you'll see them kind of on the banks of streams. It has a really nice open habit, and these really delicate, almost like clear pink flowers with protruding stamens, and it's the earliest bloomer out of all the ones we have here. Next up, we have Azalea viscosum, or swamp azalea. It's the one that we've been growing the longest, and it is the one from which a lot of the deciduous hybrids kind of come from. It's one of the most common parents out there. It gets pretty big, like 8 to 10 feet by 6 by 8. It's really fragrant, and true to its name, its common name, it likes it wet. It's a really good solution for challenging wet areas, and it's got a lot of genetic variation in the flowers. They can be anywhere from like a pure white to a pretty soft pink. Next plants on my list, Ceanothus americanus, common name New Jersey tea. This plant has a lot going for it. It's fragrant, it's compact, it's drought tolerant. It's one of the best native shrubs for attracting butterflies, including the spring azure, which is pictured here, and depends almost exclusively on Ceanothus species. It has these really like airy, like wispy blooms. They can be white to soft pink, and it is just an amazing pollinator attractor. It's a great choice for someone with a dry, sunny spot to fill. And apparently, colonists used dried leaves as a tea substitute during the British tea boycott. Next up, we have Cephalanthus occidentalis crimson comets, or a buttonbush. It's one of the coolest flowers in nature, I think. It looks like a little pincushion, and it is filled with nectar. It's basically like a lollipop for bees. It's one of the few native shrubs that actually thrive in standing water, but it can actually tolerate some average garden conditions. So it can be a plant that your average homeowner has. It's a really important late season nectar source for when many other plants have finished blooming. It's deer resistant. The seed pods provide food to waterfowl and other birds in the wintertime. It's just really a great all-around shrub. And what makes crimson comets a little different from the species and a little more standout is that the seed pods are this really bright, vibrant red, as opposed to kind of fading to a more brownish tone. So it really holds on to its interest a lot longer. And currently it is exclusively an American Beauty's native plant selection. Deer Villa, this is a genus that has really picked up steam probably in the last 5 years, I would say. All the big brands are hybridizing it like crazy. Proven Winners has selections, Bloom and Easy has selections, and those are all great plants too. But Copper is kind of the OG of the bunch and a true native selection. It's a really adaptable shrub. It can take just about any conditions you throw at it, shade, sun, and it's really grown on me the last couple of years. The foliage is just cool. It's goes from green to a pretty dead. The new growth starts out burgundy, and then it goes to a little bit of a green, and then burgundy again. The yellow flowers are really, really stand out against that red foliage, and it has great fall color, and the fruit is a songbird favorite. This one only gets about 2 to 3 feet high by about 3 feet wide, so it can fit into a wide range of garden situations. Next up, we have Hydrangea arborescens Haas Halo. This is a great plant for hydrangea lovers who also catch the native bug. It retains the lace cap flower form of the straight species arborescens, but the blooms are a lot larger and the stems are a lot stronger. And anyone who's encountered hydrangea arborescens in the wild or seen the straight species knows it can be a little bit inconsistent and maybe not the prettiest ornamental shrub always. So Haas Halo kind of takes the best of that plant and really turns it into something that would stand out in any garden. It's just as ornamental as an Annabelle or any of the big mophead flower types, but it supports pollinators a lot better by having those lacy flowers in the middle that they can actually access. Has a super uniform habit, and it was discovered from a batch of seedlings.
Stephanie, this is one of my favorite native shrubs, and this plant there in the picture is actually the one that's by my driveway. And I find myself all summer long going by with my phone camera and just recording the activity that's buzzing around it. It's really active, tons of different butterflies, bees, honeybees, wasps you see on it. So this is a really amazing shrub that I try to put in as many landscapes as I can. So if you're not familiar with it, which I know a lot of people are, it's really a phenomenal choice.
Yeah, that one in your yard actually looks like it could be an Annabelle. It's just so uniform and it's just such a nice ornamental shrub, but with all the great native benefits.
And my 6-year-old actually pruned that one, so it's you
Well,
don't have to be an expert to make it look good.
good job. The next plant on my list, it's really pretty similar to Haas Halo in a lot of ways. It's got the strong stems, it's got kind of a more uniform habit. The big difference is that it has pink flowers. So if you're looking for something with a little bit of color and something to replace like a hydrangea mac in your garden, this would be a good choice. So I had to throw an evergreen in here. I don't know how it ended up that everything I did was deciduous, but I did find this one evergreen to put into the slideshow, and it's Juniper Blueberry Delight. It's a really, really tough native evergreen. It can handle just about anything you throw at it. It's super cold hardy, hardy to zone 2, and if you're in the Northeast this past week or so, it kind of feels like we live in zone 2, so that might be an extra good thing right now. It has its name comes from its blueberry-like cones that support wildlife. And I was actually looking for a picture to kind of give a close-up of those cones, but all the pictures looked so much like blueberries that I didn't know if any of them were AI or Photoshopped. So I decided not to use it. But when you see them in person, they really do. It looks like you could just pick them off of there and eat it. It also has this really fine textured foliage that's green on the underside and kind of silvery blue on top. So it has almost like a shimmery effect, and it is a great source of food for songbirds. Next up, I wanted to highlight the three native roses that we grow and kind of point out the differences between them because they look really, really similar and are almost interchangeable, but not quite. So the three that we do are Rosa Carolina, Rosa palustris, and Rosa virginiana. And starting with Rosa Carolina, that's the one that will take kind of the driest sites. It's nearly thornless. It's the most compact. Rosa palustris or swamp rose, like its name suggests, is the one that'll take the wettest sites. And it has kind of the largest, longest bloom. But again, when you see them all in person, there's not a whole lot of difference. Rosa virginiana is the most adaptable and probably the most ornamental of the bunch. And it's the one that I would suggest for like a retail garden center. If they just wanted to carry one native rose, I think that's the one that the widest range of people would be most successful with. It's a kind of a substitute for Rosa rugosa in places where that plant is no longer welcome. It will take some salt and it will take some dry, but it's not quite as salt tolerant as Rosa rugosa. Now, the things that they all have in common is that they all have simple open flowers. They're a lot more disease resistant to the typical hybrid roses that we see. And they all have really nice bright red hips that are good for winter and fall food for birds. And as Allison pointed out to me yesterday, for people too. And they're just tough, adaptable shrubs. And they're the opposite of what you think of when you think rose, because they really do require much more minimal care. Couple of trees that I wanted to highlight, and one of them is Acer spicatum. It's the smallest of the native maples. It's a really cool little, I don't know, multi-stemmed tree, large shrub. I'm not really sure where the line gets drawn there, but it stays pretty small relative to other maples. It has these really cool, like green flower spikes that protrude above the leaves that are really unique to maples. And then the samaras or seed pods, or if you want to get really technical about it, the whirligigs kind of form in drooping clusters in early fall. And that gives it another point of interest before like a really spectacular fall color comes. And I know I'm not describing this tree to the best of my abilities. I think it's one that you guys should really check out, though. It's really a super cool native tree. Next up, we have Asimina triloba, or the pawpaw. This thing has become a fruit craze in the last few years. We haven't been able to keep up production for a long time. I think we have finally kind of caught up. Denise is nodding yes at me now, so we should have them available for more people who want them. It's grown in popularity because it's got this custard-like fruit. It's the largest North American native fruit, and it's the only one of these kind of custard apple type fruits that thrives in temperate zones. Most of them are tropical. It's the only host for the zebra swallowtail and also the host plant of the aptly named pawpaw sphinx moss. And really, it's kind of like the poster child for the grow your own or local food movement because you cannot store it, you cannot ship it. If somebody has a pawpaw, then you know that it was grown nearby and recently. Now we're moving on to some perennials. This plant, Agastache funiculum, some mouthful, or Anise hyssop, also a little bit of a mouthful. This is one of my favorite plants here. It's one of my favorite houses to visit in the summertime here at Pride's because we will have a house full of them and you can be 30 feet away and you can hear like the subtle hum like a jet engine. There's so many bees on them. And it's super adaptable. It's super low maintenance. And it's one of the few plants that I go out there in the summertime. It's not starting to wilt. The flowers hold up for a long time. It's just super heat tolerant tolerant, super drought tolerant, and it goes forever. It'll start to bloom in the summer, and if you cut them back, they'll come back and bloom again as long as you deadhead them. And we've had them going. I think the last ones were still blooming in September this year. So I had to include this one because it is kind of your classic native Northeast perennial, Aquilegia canadensis or wild Columbine. It's one of the earliest plants to bloom, which is always a plus in my mind. You know, when things are really bleak out there, it's nice to see some color, and it's kind of unique with these kind of reddish, pinkish with yellow-throated flowers that stand out when basically everything that blooms first is yellow, and as we'll talk about later, everything that blooms last just about is yellow. The species is a little bit bigger than little lanterns, the cultivar that we carry. And it's got a little bit more of kind of that open, airy, like wildflower type habit, whereas little lanterns is just a compact, round little thing. They are pretty short-lived, but they self-sow, and they're an early spring essential for pollinators. So I don't think you can do a native plants presentation without talking about the absolute flagship of native plants, the one that the poster boy, the one that everyone talks about, and that's milkweed. And the one that I picked to put in this presentation is Asclepias incarnata, also known as swamp milkweed. And don't let the name fool you. It can take wet conditions, but it also adapts pretty well to just about any average garden. And I picked this one particularly because, in my opinion, in my limited sample size of one, I find it to be the one that gets the most action from caterpillars. I've had Syriaca, I have had tuberosa, I've had this one, and this one by far gets the most caterpillars. And it's hardy. It comes back reliably. It is kind of short-lived, but while it's going, it comes back pretty well. And it's behaved. It's a lot more well-behaved than its common milkweed cousin in that it stays about 3 feet tall. It'll spread a little bit, but it stays pretty well contained. So anyway, it's my favorite out of many. We also do a white flowered cultivar called Ice Ballet that I didn't get into this presentation, but if you want something with white flowers, we have that. So I wanted to focus on just a few asters. They're the big fall blooming perennial. They're a big genus here at Pride's Corner. Well, not all fall blooming, but typically thought of. And there were just a few that I wanted to pick out and kind of highlight that maybe don't get as much attention. And the first one is Aster azureus or Symphia tricon elongatiensis, I think is what they're calling it now. We haven't made the switch yet, but we're still in Aster territory here. And I picked Aster azureus because it was kind of new to me. It was not a plant that I had seen in cultivation much until we started growing it. And it really stood out to me this summer when I would go out in late summer or early fall just to see what was looking good. So I would have things to recommend to customers. It really stood out because it has a very different habit from a lot of the asters that we grow. It's really upright and erect. It looks like a wildflower. And so when it was next to kind of all those cultivars that are grown to be little compact ball like mum substitutes, it made a big difference in appearance. And I liked it. It also has a really soft blue flower. It kind of stood out from all the typical like brighter, deeper blues and purples that you see in the asters in the fall. Next up, we have Aster ericoides snow flurry. And it is very different from any of the other asters that we grow here at Pride's Corner. It's a ground cover. It has like this really cool trailing habit that makes it great for like the in the picture, kind of cascading over rocks. But it also makes a good fall container plant for the same reasons. It gets covered in these small white flowers. I think that snow flurries flowers are just a little bit bigger than the species. I do see the species out in the wild here, and it's always little patches on the ground here and there. It never looks quite this vigorous. So I'm pretty sure that this was selected for that. It's a really reliable bloomer, so it gives great fall color in landscapes and, like I said, containers. This is one of my favorites, Aster oblongifolium. It's probably the showiest aster that we do. It gets fairly big, up to like 3 feet tall, and it gets covered in these kind of soft purple daisy-like flowers with the yellow center. It's like the quintessential aster bloom. It's got aromatic foliage, so it kind of helps that when crushed. It helps deter deer and rabbits. It's a really high nectar value pollinator for pollinators late in the season. So when everything else has kind of gone by, there's still a lot of activity and a lot of action on all these asters. This one's pretty drought tolerant once it's established. And while the species stays relatively neat for a native wild aster, it actually keeps a pretty nice uniform habit. It has been cultivated into a couple of varieties that we carry here that I think do things a little bit differently, enough that you should consider maybe having one of them too. The first one is October Skies. Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
Oh,
Allison.
I just had a quick comment. Katie was talking about the Aster ericoides being eaten by bunnies, and I wasn't sure what is your experience with deer resistant and bunny resistant, and I know I've heard it mixed for the genus. Some people they kind of eat and some they kind of leave alone. Any thoughts?
I have not heard of Ericoides having the kind of similar uh, critter resistance to something like Oblongifolius. I'm not positive about that though. Maybe that's something somebody can look into, but I
Okay,
don't think that it has the same resistance.
great, thanks.
So this is October Skies, and it's one of the most popular plants we sell here in the fall. It's used by people in land for landscape. It's used for retail garden centers. It's a great plant. It gets just as covered in flowers as the picture here represents, and it stays pretty compact, only maxing out at about 3 feet. It takes full sun, and it has a really nice mounding habit. And then the other one that is a pretty old cultivar, but we just picked up, I think last year, is Twilight Sky. And it's just got a little bit more of a open or taller, more erect habit than the species. It also has a slight difference in flower color, but it is a really slight difference. So still a great plant. And if you're looking for something just a little bit bigger and maybe something not quite as mounding, this is a good cultivar for you. Next up, we have Calthopalustris or marsh marigold. And I love this plant. It is the absolute opposite of a jack of all trades plant. It is not an all-around garden performer. It has to be in wet conditions. And it can actually grow in the water. There's a couple of places I like to go in the early spring where you walk across a little log bridge over a stream and you see them growing right in the stream on either side of you. And it's just one of the most welcome sights when everything else is still just brown and gray and cold and dreary. To see these little yellow, like buttercups poking up is just a fantastic thing. And it does really well in cultivation. If you have someone that needs a solution for a wet site, it's a great option. It goes dormant in the summertime if it's hot and sunny. If it's in a cool enough spot or has enough shade, it might not, but it's not always a bad thing. Next up, we have Campanula rotundifolia, or bluebell. I think it's also called harebell. And I love this plant. It's very small. It only gets to be about 12 to 18 inches tall. And I'm pretty sure that's with the flowers. And the flowers are just these really like delicate bluebell bell-shaped flowers that are really airy and light. They're held up above the foliage, so it gives it a real like open meadow wildflower feel. But most plants that have that are in the 2 to 4 foot range. So if you want something really compact, but you still kind of want to have that look going for you, this is a great choice. Uh, when it first emerges, you would not guess how it ends up looking shortly after either. The name actually comes from the initial basal round leaves, and those wither away. They start out to give the plant some structure because once those stems come up and it's got these really kind of fine textured light leaves, they don't need them anymore and it'll stand up on its own. But I thought that was interesting because I couldn't figure out why it was called rotundifolia. Next up, we have Coreopsis lanceolata, lance leaf tick seed. And I picked this one because it's kind of a great like starter native. It tolerates a really wide variety of conditions. It stays pretty small because a lot of people can get overwhelmed by a plant that gets 4 or 5 feet tall. This one will max out at 2 feet. I usually see them a little bit shorter. It takes full sun well, but it can handle a little bit of shade. And the blooms last forever. It blooms all through the summer. It's heat and drought tolerant. It attracts pollinators. And I also like it because of the looks of it. It kind of has these lobes in the petals that give it a real ornamental look. And I think it can stand up against all those fancy, like bicolor Coreopsis hybrids in the ornamental department. I think it's just as pretty as some of them. So from one yellow daisy flower to another, I had to include this one though because I think it's just a great late season plant. It's Helenium autumnale, common name, common sneezeweed. It's another late season plant. It's another plant that if you spend any time outdoors, you're real likely to see on the water's edge. So it really thrives in wet soils. It's pretty adaptable though. It needs a decent amount of moisture, but it does not have to live in the swamp. And it's just a really strong performer late in the season. And the flowers are kind of unique. It's got those really nice yellow daisy centers, and the flowers kind of reflex a bit, a little bit drooping, and it gives it some really interesting texture. And it will go, I think ours were in bloom here till basically mid-fall this year. Next up, we have Heuchera americana. This is one of our native coral bells, and it is one of the parents from which most of the fancy hybrid colored coral bells come from. And I wanted to put this one in here to kind of suggest that it can be just as fancy and beautiful as some of those. It's a great shade plant, like most Heuchera. Yeah, it can handle some sun if it gets consistent moisture. And the leaves here in the picture, you can see they're this kind of green with a really nice mottled silver, but they can also be a little bronzy, a little brown, a little yellowy. So there's a little bit more variation to it than this picture suggests. And in mild enough climates, it's pretty evergreen too. So it'll give you color year round. Next up is Lobelia cardinalis, and this is another one of like the classic natives. If you have native plants in your lineup, you need to have this one. What makes it, I guess, most unique is the color of that flower. If you're out walking in the woods when it's blooming and you come upon a clearing with maybe a body of water and it's sitting on the edge, you can see it from far away, like a beacon, and it actually is a beacon. It's red, so it can attract hummingbirds and other pollinators to it. I found out yesterday from my colleague Denise here that one of the reasons that it is on the water's edge so often is that it prefers a lot of sun. And when it's next to the water reflects the sun back onto it, allowing it to get the sun it needs while still living in kind of a woodland environment. It's like a lot of our plants here, it's kind of short-lived, but it is definitely worth having in your garden. Next up, we have Lismachia lanceolata burgundy mist. It is in the loosestrife family, but do not let it be confused with any of the invasive loosestrifes that you do not want in your garden. This one is native and well behaved. And I almost didn't include this plant because when we first started carrying it, I just wasn't impressed. I saw it during a green-leaved phase and it just looked like kind of like some really wavy grass mixed together. It didn't get me. But then as it started to redden up and it took on this really vibrant, deep wine-colored foliage, and then it has these beautiful yellow flowers. They're small, but there's a lot of them. And it just contrasts so beautifully against the foliage. And that's what made this plant really grow on me. And the other thing is it also fits into that category of kind of compact plants that still have a very native, very wildflower feel. Um, One thing to note is that to keep it nice and bright red like that, it does need full sun. It can handle some shade, but like a lot of plants that turn red, it'll turn green in the shade. This one is another one of my personal favorites, Monarda fistulosa. It is a great alternative to Monarda didyma in that it is more disease resistant, more drought tolerant, but the pollinators love it just as much. It attracts many species of butterflies, from fritillaries to swallowtails to skippers to monarchs, basically the whole gang. It was also historically used as a remedy for like many things by indigenous people. It was used to make like poultices, I can't say that word, to treat wounds and for a lot of other things like colds and fevers. And it's got a really long bloom period. I should also mention its cousin, who I did not include in this presentation because it's kind of slightly out of the native range of most of our customers. But another great plant to consider is Monarda bradburyana. It's got a lot of similar features to Monarda fistulosa, but it stays a little bit more compact. Next up, we have Phlox paniculata Jenna, or Jenna garden phlox. This plant was the 2024 Perennial of the Year, and it was super well deserving of that honor. It is just an awesome plant. You can see from the pictures here, it attracts butterflies like crazy. It has exceptional disease resistance. Like all garden phlox, you still want to give it some airflow, but it has much better disease resistance than a lot of other varieties. And the flowers have like a fair amount of genetic variation, which keeps it interesting. They can be anywhere from like a soft pink with a darker eye to like a more lavender color, or even sometimes a pretty bright pink. It was found growing along a river in Nashville, Tennessee by a woman named Jenna Hewitt, and that's where it gets its name from. Um, and oh, it was the top performing phlox in Mount Cuba trials. It's just a winner all around. Also, one of the plants in this slideshow that has the most retail appeal. If you have these in a garden center, when they're blooming, they will fly off the shelves. So this is a theme here, but this is another one of my favorite plants that we grow. Phlox divaricata blue moon or blue moon woodland phlox. It blooms early and it blooms profusely. It's got these beautiful blue flowers, and I prefer it over some of our other creeping phloxes like moss phlox that have kind of that steady ground cover habit because this thing looks a little bit wild. It's actually pretty compact. It kind of stays in place pretty well, but the flowers just kind of tumble off of it. And it's such a welcome spring sight. It's consistent. It's consistent for growth, for flowering. It's outperformed the species and all the trials that it's been in. It does best in part shade. So if you're looking for something with a lot of color early and you have a shady spot, this is a great one. And if you ever see it in a mass planting, it is absolutely stunning. Next up, we have Porteranthus trifoliatus pink profusion, also known as Gelenia. Trifoliatus, I'm actually not sure which one is the current name now, but we're calling it Porteranthus. It's pink profusion Bowman's root. It's a little bit unique in our native perennial selections in that it's extremely long-lived. I think you've probably heard me say the words short-lived several times so far, and this plant is not one of those. It has a little bit smaller of a habit and pink flowers instead of the white that the species have. It was found in the wild and sent to Mount Cuba in 1987 and was commercially introduced 10 years later. So this is a tried and true garden performer. It has been around for quite some time. It's really low maintenance. It can handle some shade. And again, it's got that really beautiful airy texture that really softens a landscape and kind of screams native. This plant. If I was in a contest and I needed to see the most bees possible in one single day, I would go and find some Pycnanthemum muticum to hang out next to because it is literally a buzz. When I said a house of agastache put off a hum, one Pycnanthemum muticum puts off a hum. It is, I know pollinator magnet is kind of like the term that's thrown around all the time now, but this one like super deserves it. It's a mid-sized perennial. It's about 2 feet tall, and the flowers on it are actually pretty discreet. So the pollinators find it, but people wouldn't be able to see much. But it does have these really kind of unique silvery bracts, and that gives it more of the ornamental interest and the textural interest than the flowers does, and makes it a pretty plant to have around too. And it attracts anybody who wants pollen. It will be covered with bees, like I mentioned, but also moths, hummingbirds, wasps. I know some people don't like them, but mostly we're talking about the solitary guys that will leave you alone. And some of those are pretty cool looking too. It is a spreader. I would say that would be the one kind of caveat to planting this. I think all its benefits outweigh that, but like a lot of plants with mint in the name, it will get away from you if you let it. Oh, and it's really adaptable too. I don't know if I mentioned that, but it can handle a pretty wide variety of conditions. So next up we have Rudbeckia laciniata. And this might be it's a little outside the box for a retail plant because when it says here that it grows 2 to 9 feet tall, that 2 feet is what it will look like when it shows up to your garden center. It is a big plant. It is the statement piece of perennials here, and I think it is worth having because if you have a spot for it, it is a stunning plant. It differs from most other Rudbeckias. You see, it's called a cutleaf coneflower, not a black-eyed or brown-eyed Susan, because the cone is a nice, pretty kind of yellowish color, yellow to greenish color. And the petals are super reflex. They droop away from the plant, and they are held up above the foliage, 9 feet tall. It's a stunner. If you see it in the landscape, when it is in full bloom, it's a beautiful plant to have. And if you have a place where you need a tall plant, either behind things or as a statement of its own, I really recommend it. And the other thing it has going for it is that it flowers really late and its seed heads provide late season food for birds. It does pretty well in moist soils and but it can handle kind of drier conditions. Not too dry, but it doesn't have to be too wet. And it can take some shade. So I wanted to talk about a couple of goldenrods. They have gotten really popular and for good reason. They're a great, bright, colorful plant. They are something that really personifies what a native perennial kind of looks like. But for the most part, when you think of a goldenrod, you think of a meadow plant, right? Something in a field, full of yellow, or maybe along a roadside, full of yellow. Uh, so the two that I picked out to talk about today are a little different. So I wanted to point out those differences to people. The first one is Solidago cassia, and it is different in that it is kind of a woodland perennial. It can take full sun, but it can also take full part shade. It has these really pretty, like bluish green leaves and stems that make it stand out a little bit. And the flowers are a little different from typical goldenrods. So it's great for like shade garden. And it's also a plant that stays pretty compact in the goldenrod world, only topping out at about 3 feet by 3 feet. And the flowers form these really kind of nice arching clumps. I like it. It's one of my favorites. And the other goldenrod that I wanted to talk about today, hardy to zone 3, Solidago sempervirens, or seaside goldenrod. And as you can guess by the name, those common names really give it away sometimes, but it thrives in like coastal conditions. So it would be great for like my people in Long Island, anywhere where there's water, this plant is going to go. Well, it's super salt tolerant. It does well inland too, though, so it's not really limited to that, but it's a little different from other goldenrods. It's also one of the showiest ones. It blooms into late fall and just supports migrating pollinators for a pretty long period of time. Next up, we have Vernonia iron butterfly or iron butterfly narrow leaf ironweed. So sometimes late summer and late fall can just seem like a sea of yellow in the native world. And Vernonia, it just comes and offers the shock of purple. You'll see a field full of yellow and just a shock of purple in it. And that alone makes it one of my favorite plants. Iron butterfly in particular came into being as a seedling in Alan Armitage's trial garden in Georgia before it made its way to North Creek Nursery, where it was selected and named by owner Steve Castorani due to its toughness and pollinator attracting abilities. It's a relatively compact variety, and in the world of Vernonia, that means it gets about 2.5 to 3 feet tall, still much smaller than the one we're going to talk about next. It takes full sun, and it has this really nice, fine textured foliage. So it's got a little bit of foliage interest as well as these beautiful purple flowers. So next up, we have the other Vernonia, Vernonia novaborescens. which means New York ironweed, but it is by no means exclusive to New York. You'll see it all over the Northeast. It does very well in moist sites, and it's also quite tall. This thing can get, it says 3 to 4, I'd say it can probably get up to 5 feet. So it's great for like backs of borders or naturalized areas. And it has the same beautiful purple flowers that iron butterfly has. So again, if you're looking for something a little smaller, a little tamer, that maybe you want to sell to your retail customers, iron butterfly is a great choice. But if you want a real tall, big statement flower, Novaborescence is the way to go.
Stephanie, do you have any idea, do you know how resistant Vernonia is to powdery mildew?
I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Um, we're gonna find out though.
We'll find out. We'll let you know.
There's
Barbara
three
says
of
not
us, and none of
very.
us know. What's that?
Barbara on here says not very. So sounds like
Okay,
it could
that
be an
kind of
issue
makes sense.
if it's in wet
Yeah.
conditions.
Yeah, a lot of plants that like wet conditions also don't seem to have the resistance that you would think would come with that. So that basically concludes my perennial selections, and the only thing I have left to talk about is a couple of grasses. The first one is Andropogon gerardii, and I picked this one because it's really like a four-season grass. It has really nice, attractive blue-green foliage in the summer. It's a summer grower. You won't see a lot of action out of it in the spring, so maybe I should change that to a three-season grass. But it really takes off in the summertime, and then it turns deep red in the late summer and like a real coppery color in the fall. It maintains its structure in the winter, so it provides great food for birds with its seed heads. It has a really upright habit. It can be a little bit aggressive, so it might not be the best choice for small spaces, but it's a great grass for privacy screenings. And yeah, I really like it. Another thing about it is it's got a pretty distinct flower head. They are said to resemble a turkey foot. Oh, and this one is a tall one. It gets big. So if you have this one in the fall, you will not be able to see your neighbors from your pool. And last but not least, we have Bouteloua gracilis Blonde Ambition. We started selling this one several years ago, and it immediately became a hit. It is a great grass. It's fairly compact in the grass world. It gets about 3 by 3. It's super cold hardy to zone 4. It can take a lot of sun. It's very drought tolerant. And it has these like very unique horizontal seed heads that some people say resemble eyebrows. I kind of think of them more like waving tiny flags. It makes it really unique among grasses, and also the color of them. It really has that nice kind of almost like wheat tones to it that stand out in the landscape. And that's all I have. That's the end of it. I'm wrapping up a little under an hour. If anyone has any more questions, we're happy to take them.
Steve, we have a couple questions coming in. Noreen asked, how deep are the roots of I don't even know how to say it, the blonde ambition?
I think that the roots on it go pretty deep. Yeah, yeah, I think so.
And they also has asked if it was aggressive. So I'm guessing like, does it spread easily?
It does spread. It's not super aggressive though. It's a pretty good choice for mass plantings because you'll plant a lot of them, they'll stay there, but it will spread some. It's not, but not super aggressively.
Sounds good. A lot of thank yous coming in. Is there the events coming up slide?
Oh my goodness, thank you.
Well, and I guess before we go into that, we're always looking for the like ideas for webinars. Last year we kind of did a overview on, fruit plants. We did this one with native plants. Any other ideas that you have for information that you'd like to learn more about, please put it into the chat and we'll be pulling it to get some ideas for maybe next year or later this season. Next week, we have the trees and shrubs with Ben. So that's on Tuesday at 2 o'clock, or sorry, 10 o'clock on Tuesday. And then after that, we have perennials and roses with Ray the following week. There's also keep an eye out for a webinar with Doug Tallamy. American Beauties is hosting a webinar with him. I think if you go on to the American Beauty Native Plants website, there's a link there. You can RSVP and check that out. And as well as we want to invite you to our Customer Appreciation Day this August. So it's a little bit further down the line, but we've had a Customer Appreciation Day the last 2 years, and we found it to be an excellent way for you to come see the nursery, see what we're doing, meet us, have some fun, eat some great food, go on a tour, meet with your sales team. So that's August 6th this year. So make sure you put it on your calendar. We can't wait to see you.
And I would just like to say thank you so much, everyone. Denise here had a suggestion. If any of you have any ideas for native plants that we are not growing, but we should be growing, reach out to your sales rep and let us know, and we will pass that along to our inventory folks here.
So thanks, guys, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.